morning, and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by Get Go Cafe and Market, where, John, I don't know about you, but I like to get my fresh food, and it's always fresh there at Get Go.
Absolutely. It's Eat Fresh Month, and it's a good way to start the year eating good in January, because we know we all eat bad in November and December because of Thanksgiving and Christmas, so try to balance it out here at the start of the year.
And John, let's start talking. Pirates baseball season is coming upon us. You're about to head out to spring training. You just started your spring training series, and you started focusing off on where the Pirates stand in the NL Central. What's your takes? A lot of moves have been made. A lot of moves are still to be made in free agency still, but we're starting to get a sense of who's going to be in everyone's camps, down in spring training. But what are you getting a feel of where the Pirates are stacked up against their rivals?
Well, they finished fourth last year despite having a winning record at 82-79, and the National League Central was the only division that had 4 teams with winning records.
Wow.
So it was obviously a very, very strong division last year. And if you look at the other 4 teams in the division, while the Pirates haven't made a major move this winter, all the other ones have. The Cubs have exercised Cole Hamels' option for $20 million, and he gives them another really good pitcher in their starting rotation. The Brewers signed Yasmani Grandal, a Gold Glove caliber catcher, to a 1-year, $18 million contract. The Cardinals went and traded for Paul Goldschmidt, the Arizona first baseman, who's made the All-Star team 6 straight years, and also signed Andrew Miller, outstanding lefty reliever. And the Reds have really overhauled their roster. They're sick of losing after losing at least 94 games, 4 years in a row. They have 3 new starting pitchers, and they went out and got Yasiel Puig and Matt Kemp to bolster their outfield from the Reds. And all of a sudden, they look better. I'm not ready to say they'll win the division, but they certainly won't be the pushover they've been the last few years.
But basically, everyone did a quick makeover to add to their stars and add to their talent, while the Pirates are still trying to stay in-house and figure everything out on their own. How can they expect to compete with? I mean, they were next to last place, and yes, they had a winning record and all that. But how can they expect to compete with these teams that they couldn't compete with last year when they're adding in the Pirates army?
Well, when you ask that question to them, they say that the trades they made last July at the non-waiver trade deadline, getting Chris Archer for the rotation from Tampa Bay, trading for Keona Kello, who was the closer in Texas, and will probably be Felipe Vasquez, the Pirates closer, setup man this year. But I just don't know if that's enough. The moves they made this winter have been small, very small moves, nothing earth-shattering at all. And you know, they're hoping for improvement from within, especially they feel the pitching staff is good, and I agree with them there, and they think their hitting can improve. I'm not so sure about that, but it's going to have to for them to contend. They can't be 19th out of the 30 big league teams in runs scored and 25th in home runs like they were last year and winning a division this strong.
Antonio Brown, once again, back in the news. Can't stop, won't stop, just keeps coming. We knew that there was an altercation. Now we have a little bit more specifics coming from a report by, I believe it was Ray Fittipaldo, who we now know that the incident that's in question with Antonio Brown is that there was an altercation with his ex-girlfriend, or the mother of his child, in which he shoved her to the ground after an altercation, and that she sprained her wrist, I believe. But Hunter, you've been following it 24/7. You're always on the news. What's your readout from all the different things you're picking up?
This is an interesting twist, and I mean, this is where it stops being funny. You know what I mean? When you start involving stuff like this, it takes on a much more serious tone. It's not him tweeting a Photoshop in a Niners jersey anymore. It becomes a serious matter, and if this all happened, you know, the details are still pretty cloudy, and it's kind of dangerous to speculate when it comes to something like this. But this is the kind of thing where, up to this point, I could not see the Steelers just cutting ties with him straight up. Like a lot of people were saying, oh, just get rid of him, he's too much of an issue. It's like, that doesn't make sense. But now if we're talking domestic disputes and things like that, and there is a serious character problem, I could possibly see it elevating to that level where maybe they're more likely to take less than they initially wanted for him at this point.
Even beyond that, here's the things that I'm looking at. You still have to see the legitimacy of this report, but considering the NFL's history with domestic abuse and the cloud that hovers over that, I mean, you just saw what happened with Kareem Hunt. You have to consider, does this, now everyone was talking about, can the Steelers just void the contract for him not showing up, and that couldn't happen. But something like this, something that can get you suspended by the NFL, something that can say that this is conduct unbecoming of an NFL player, Now you are talking about something that may relieve the Steelers of the guaranteed money in his contract, which does change the conversation. But again, we are way too early to speculate as far as how far that can go into the salary cap, into the this might go away, because remember, no charges were pressed. This isn't the same thing as necessarily Kareem Hunt, where the woman was pressing charges immediately on the scene. So lots to discover here, but definitely opens up the door to a few more conversations to be had, like we need it anymore. All right, John, everyone always wants to know who's the next up-and-comer, who's going to surprise us. As I understand, you created your top 10 prospect list. I want you to give me two things. One, your top person, and two, the sleeper guy that no one else is counting on.
Okay. My number one is a little bit different than some of the other websites and various publications that rank prospects. I went with Brian Hayes, a third baseman who played at Altoona, was an Eastern League All-Star last year. His father, Charlie, was a third baseman for the Pirates many years ago, played in the big leagues for 14 years. I know a lot of people pick Mitch Keller, the right-handed pitcher, who will also be at Indy to start this season, and I think he has a very bright future too, but there's just something about Hayes, between the chance of seeing him at minicamp and watching how he goes about his work, talking to some scouts from other teams I really trust, and just, you know, he's still a kid. He'll be 21 playing at AAA this year, and I think that gives him a lot of upside, and I think, you know, he's still real tall and thin, and I think his body will fill out as he gets a little bit older, and he'll add some more power, and I think he's going to be a really good player, and he's a tremendous defensive third baseman. I've had some scouts tell me if he went to the big leagues right now, he'd be one of the top 3 defensive third basemen in the entire league.
That's a lot. That's a lot of high praise for a 21-year-old. Yeah. Is he your top player and your sleeper, or do you have another guy in mind?
My sleeper is, I'm going to go with Will Craig. Now, I know people say, well, he was a first-round draft pick. How could he be a sleeper? But, you know, he's fallen off all these top 10, other people's top 10 lists and everything. But he did start to hit with more power last year at Altoona. He hit 20 home runs in the ballpark. For people who haven't been there in Altoona, is a very big ballpark with a big outfield. It's not an easy place to hit home runs in. And he also, and I know some of the new wave statistical people say RBIs really don't matter, but they matter because they score runs. And he had 102 last year in a 144-game season. They play 18 fewer games than in the big leagues, in the minor leagues, and he was able to get 102 in a shortened season like that, a 5-month season instead of a 6-month season. So I think, you know, people have kind of written him off after his first 3 years in pro ball. I think there's something there, and having a chance to talk with him at minicamp too, I was very impressed with just his attitude, the way he approaches hitting, the way he approaches the game, and I think he, again, I know people might say, well, he's not totally a sleeper, but I think he is a guy that some people have kind of downgraded a little too soon.
Well, there you have it, guys. Those are the guys you should be looking out for in this spring training.